Hey guys, I'm back with another episode review. I hope you enjoy this one. So I'm just going to get into it like I usually do. So Emily's dad arrives. As you remember from the last episode, family services was called and he's now home and she goes to school. Caleb and Hannah are discussing the missing gun. Apparently the gun that's missing from Hannah's dad's desk was a 38. So Caleb is saying, well, if your mom took the gun and Wilden was shot with a gun that was a 38, then she must have done it. And Hannah gets all upset and she, walks away. She says, look, I'll talk to you later. Then Arya and Spencer walk up and Hannah starts interrogating Spencer about Melissa and the mask. And Spencer's like, look, you need to calm down a little bit. Then Emily walks up, tells the girls that her dad is here. And then you see Officer Holbrook, finally got his name, and Lieutenant Tanner. They're sitting in a car and they're looking at the girls and they're discussing how is it that these four girls are basically connected to all these murders, to all these murder cases. I mean, think about it. Allison, Wilden, Garrett, a few quick examples. Then Melissa, Spencer, and Miss Hastings, I guess they're having like a little chit chat type of a thing. And Miss Hastings had the biggest attitude problem to me in this scene. She was really upsetting me. Um, Spencer, she makes a few comments and stuff, and their mom is basically saying, you don't have to be so jealous of Melissa and all this stuff. And Melissa's looking like, okay, mom, you need to stop. And then Spencer tells both of them that she didn't get into UPenn. They don't believe her. And they say, well, there's something that we can do and all this other mess. And in my opinion, Miss Hastings is way too controlling. I'm going to leave it at that. And then Hannah's at her mom's job, and apparently Officer Holbrook and Lieutenant Tanner are going through Wilden's safe deposit box at the bank. And they find money, they find two passports, and they find a gun. And basically they take all that with them into custody. And then Spencer, she is looking up info on Dr. Palmer while she's on the phone with Emily, and Emily overhears her parents talking about her and talking about everything that's going on. Then in the next scene, Emily is talking to Dr. Vargas, and he eventually tells Emily, yes, I'm the one who called family services. And Emily is telling him, look, I just want to explain everything that's going on. And of course, naturally, he doesn't really seem to want to believe her. She tries to get up and leave, and then he says, your test results came back. And she's torn, I believe they said, the rotating cuff in her shoulder, and that she's pretty much going to need surgery, and she's only concerned about when she can get back in the water and swim again. All right, so Hannah talks to Lieutenant Tanner, and they discuss Wilden's safe deposit box. Then Hannah decides to talk to Lieutenant Tanner about Melissa and her connection with Wilden. Then Lieutenant Tanner wants to ask. She asks Hannah, how much contact did you have with Detective Wilden? And, they start talking. Then, of course, Caleb walks up and he wants Hannah to stay away from her and all this stuff going on. Then Spencer finds out that Dr. Palmer is in New York. Toby goes out to visit him. And there's a scene where the girls are talking, minus Hannah, and they talk about like Jake, and they talk about all these weird things that have been happening. Then Emily tells Paige that she basically can't swim anymore, which is why or at least until her shoulder heals. Let me see. Arya and Jake, they're hanging out, and then who shows up? Little Malcolm shows up, and he's all happy to see Arya, and he says his mom and dad are inside looking at books. And then Jake pretty much asks, what was that all about? Who's Ezra? And Malcolm actually asks Arya why she hasn't been over in a while. And then Arya in the next scene ends up telling Jake what is going on. So like I said before, Toby finds Dr. Palmer and they end up talking about his mom and about, her suicide. And Toby mentions, you really think that she jumped because he's seen the roof at Radley and it doesn't look like it's possible. And then Dr. Palmer starts talking about air, how he's studying heavy air and things like that. And then he says, too many people have been crushed by the heaviness of air. As Toby's walking away, he says, "Bring your mother next time." And that's when you begin to realize, oh, he's really old, his mind's starting to go. But then he says, tell her to stay away. Basically, he says, tell her to stay away from that girl. Guys, I'm not trying to quote or anything. I'm just, just telling y'all, giving you a gist of what was said. And Toby says, "What girl?" And he said, "That blonde girl. She has some bad air around her." And then you're like, was it Allison? So in the next scene, Melissa finds the suitcase. Her suitcase is downstairs, and Spencer and Aria have a video camera recording her reaction. And Spencer opens up the suitcase, and basically you see the mask. And she picks it up, she looks at it, and you can see her trying to figure out where the mask came from. Emily's parents are grilling her about her shoulder injury, and they get into this big shouting match, and Emily eventually leaves, and she just runs off. And you find out later on that she goes to see Paige, who's swimming in the school pool. And then Caleb and Hannah are talking about Hannah's mom and all these things that are happening. And next thing you know, Officer Holbrook and Lieutenant Tanner are at Hannah's house, and they want to talk to Hannah's mom. And they say, oh, she's not here, even though her car is in the driveway. And Caleb says, oh, I drove it here. I was fixing her speakers. And as soon as they leave, you see Hannah's mom show up from the top of the stairs, but then she goes directly back upstairs. Spencer and Aria are basically back where Hector's studio / workshop is, where he makes the molds of people's faces. And as they get there, Melissa comes out and she's dragging a sack. You don't know what's in the sack just yet, but Spencer follows Melissa and tells Aria to go, stay near Hector's place. Aria, she goes inside and she starts searching around, and she finds multiple masks of Allie's face. And when she confronts Hector about it, she says, I thought you broke the mold. And he said, I broke the mold, but I kept the casting of Allison's face. And when Spencer confronts Melissa, she's breaking multiple masks of Allison's face, and she's throwing them into the water. And apparently that was a deal that she had with Hector. She couldn't take them all, obviously, so she took as many as she could. She starts destroying them. And Aria actually asked Hector if Allison had always come to his place alone, and he said yes, except for one time. And it goes into a flashback. Allison is telling him, I want my money now, and he gives her some money and says that he'll give her the rest of it when he can, and she leaves and she gets into a car. But she gets into the passenger seat of the car, and he doesn't see who was driving the car, unfortunately. Now, with Spencer and Melissa, Melissa ends up confessing to a lot of stuff. Let's see, where should I start, actually? It's so much. She wanted to know when Allison's masks were made. So that's pretty much, I guess, why she went to go talk to Hector and all that stuff. And I guess to get information, she had to make a mold of her face and all that stuff. Apparently, Wilden was the one who tried to kill Spencer on the train because, she and Wilden showed up in the same costume. They were both the Queen of Hearts. She didn't know about hurting Spencer until she got there, until she was on the train. She said that she has been protecting Spencer since the beginning, so since even before all this stuff began to happen. So she's pretty much known about all this for a very, very long time. She told Spencer that she sent Jenna and Shauna to watch the girls at the lodge to see who they were going to meet. Wilden was the one who started the fire, and then when Spencer asked her, did you kill Wilden, she said, let it go. Woo, that was a lot of stuff that happened. All right. I mean, Melissa, you can tell she has been hiding something from the jump, and now all of this just comes out, and I feel like she has so much more to say, and a lot more things have been going on. All right, last couple things, and then I'll give you guys my opinion. Emily and Paige are still talking at the pool, and Emily is she's venting about not being able to swim, how hard it will be to watch Paige when they're in college just swimming along, and she's just in the stands, and Paige is basically reassuring her that everything's going to be okay. Then they get to Emily's house, and the police are there. Someone called the police about a domestic disturbance. And Emily's like, you mean when we were all yelling? And her mom is like, you know. So she goes over to the police. She tells them, I think there's been a big misunderstanding. And where are we now? So Spencer and Arya, they're talking. And Spencer basically has told Arya everything Melissa has confessed to. Melissa's obviously not there. Her car's not there. And then they both end up getting a text. It says, Melissa's guilty of plenty, but she's not a material. Kisses. So basically, whoever is A is basically pretty much saying that Melissa, she's not A, but she's guilty of a lot of stuff. Then Hannah shows up and she's very worried, and she ends up telling the two girls, because Emily's not there, that she thinks that her mom killed Wilden. Then the episode ends and we see A gluing together one of Allie's broken masks. And that's the episode. And now my opinion. I feel like a lot of interesting things did happen in this episode. And I do understand where some of you are coming from about how you feel things are very, very dragged out. And it feels like, okay, are we ever going to get any real answers? Because let's face it, the one storyline I feel like is being dragged out like crazy is the one with Hannah's mom. It's like it's a constant battle with Hannah between, does she believe what's going on? What else is she going to find out? And then, of course, Caleb's in the picture, and it's like so much going on with Hannah and her mom and this whole Wilden situation. Then Melissa. She's the main one I want to speak on. I feel like Melissa, like what that text said, she's not a material, but she is guilty of a lot of things. And I do believe her when she says that she was trying to protect Spencer. Even though they do not have the best relationship, I do feel like Melissa does care about Spencer a lot. I feel like she does genuinely care, but because of the mess she's in, it kind of comes off very funny. You know what I mean? So, yeah, okay. Melissa, she's got some screws a little bit loose, but like I said, we'll see if she, I'm pretty sure she was pretty much telling the truth. But like I said, yeah. Now with Emily's situation, like I said, y'all gotta be careful with some of this stuff. You never know who's watching, you never know who's listening. Deep down, I do wish Emily would tell her parents what happened to her shoulder. Like, if anything, she probably doesn't even have to say that she was pulling Arya and Mona away from a speeding car that was about to hit them. She could have just said that the girls went hiking and she slightly fell off a cliff. I don't know. Okay, not a cliff, but yeah, that sounded a little bit gruesome. But you guys get what I'm saying. She could have, because she did hit her shoulder on a rock. Okay, there are rocks when you go hiking. She could have said that. I would have come up with a much more convincing lie. I'm just saying. And I do feel bad about her and her family situation, because that's a lot to deal with when you have so many people poking into your personal life. Anyone else I want to talk about? Arya and Jake. I am happy that Arya has someone new in her life. I know it isn't the whole Arya Ezra thing that's going on, but at the same time, I mean, like in this episode when Malcolm kind of came into the picture and he says, his mom and dad are inside. I mean, that to me really shows that family dynamic, and Arya isn't really a part of that anymore. So I don't know. It's like I'm happy she's with someone, but at the same time, it's a little bit odd to see her. Why can't we have an independent girl in the show who's all like, I don't need a man, or in Emily's case, I don't need a girl. But like I said, it would be pretty cool to see Arya a little bit more independent and doesn't need a man. Who knows? With Toby's situation, when Dr. Palmer said the whole thing about the blonde girl and how tell your mom to stay away from her and blah, 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 very, very interesting. And we'll see what happens with all of that. Overall, I just want something to happen right now. Like something really, really, really big to happen. I've been waiting for that since the beginning of the season. Hopefully, it'll pick up a little bit more momentum. Hopefully it will. I still like the show. I still like it. But we will see. So I will see you guys in my next review. Like I mentioned in my last review, I'm going on vacation. And I'm completely going to miss recording the next one. So it'll be a little bit late. I apologize. and I'll talk to you guys later. So take care.